Hello, in this video, let us talk about how to create new indexes in a clustered environment, and we'll also see like how to distribute their configurations to the search pairs or in the indexers over there. Okay, so if you remember in our Splunk admin video, I have created a lot of videos on searched clustering as well as the indexer clustering, and we also talked about like how to connect the searched cluster with the indexer cluster as well, even though we already discussed the multi-site cluster. So this video will be focused on the single site indexer clustering. Okay, so we will see in future videos how to work with multi-site environment as well. But if we understand these concepts, it will be much easier to understand about the multi-site over there as well. So the similar setup, I have done it, I have taken it as well. Actually, this is the same setup, I have it. So I'll be using this one. So what we have a cluster master and we have 3 indexers, as you can see it here. And we have a deployer and we have 3 search heads. So what I have done, these 3 indexers are now in a cluster and these search heads are also in a cluster, and I have connected this search head cluster with this indexer cluster as well. So if I log into my cluster master, so this is the same to 3472. So this is the same cluster master I have logged in over here. And if I just go to settings, indexer clustering, so there we can see like our indexer's name over there as well as the search heads connected to that particular indexer, correct? And we have our search factor and replication factor met. Now if I just go to the indexes tab, so currently if you see only this underscore audit, underscore internal and underscore telemetry, these three internal indexes are present only, right? So now how we can create a new index which will be used in our apps. Now for this we need to understand like couple of things, like how to create a new index first and how to basically distribute these indexes to all the indexers over there, right? So now we have seen in our standalone environment we can create a new index from settings, indexes page, correct? So what is there? Let us see that one first. So from this page we can create a new index, and if you see like we can create 2 different types of indexes over there. One is events based and another is matrices based, right? And we can give the index name, the home, cold path and throat path. So this is the optional stuff over there, so you can configure them as well, correct? So this will be the enough information, and the maximum size of the index as well, which is by default 500 GB. We can create that from the UI. But for a clustered environment, you cannot create the index from the UI. So we need to understand this one first. So I will cancel this one. So what I need to do is we need to create it from the backend. That means we need to create it through the indexes.conf file. Now here couple of things. How do I make sure, if I just go back to my VM instances, how do I make sure like all my indexers have the similar configurations of the indexes over there? So that's the reason we do not create indexes on the indexer, index configurations on the indexer. So we basically maintain the configuration in our cluster master. Now it is the job of the cluster master which will basically replicate these settings to the indexers over here. Okay, so this is the first thing we need to understand. Now how cluster master do that one, let us try to discuss that one. So there is a basically generic concept over here. Not only the indexers, not only the indexes, not the indexers, not only the indexes, there could be a lot of other important configuration file as well you need to maintain at the cluster level, right? Probably the props.conf or transforms.conf, right? Or you could be developing some apps which needs to be replicated to all the indexers as well, right? So these are called the common configuration files, which will be common for all these nodes over here, correct? So this is called the configuration bundle, and the process by which we will replicate this configuration bundles are called the configuration bundle process as well. Okay, and it is the job of the cluster master to replicate this stuff to the indexer layer. Now how cluster master do that? So to understand that, what we'll do is we will try to log into the back end of the cluster master and see some stuff over there. Now if I've just logged in over there. Now one note over here is like you should be always installing Splunk as a Splunk user, not a root user, because in couple of my videos I think I have installed Splunk as a root user as well. So don't follow that. You can create a new user and install Splunk as a part of the user, so that the Splunk user should own the directories over there. Okay, then you can sudo to that user and follow it. Even this video also, because these servers I created long back, so this video also I will be using the root as a to edit the configuration file, but just a note, like you should be using the Splunk user to do all your stuff over there. So now coming back to our point, how cluster master maintains this one. So there are a couple of steps. First is there is a specific directory in a cluster master which makes sure, like, which is basically the configuration bundle directory. So cluster master will always make sure to replicate that directory content at the indexer level. So that directory is, if I just go to Splunk home, my Splunk home is /opt/Splunk. This is my Splunk home. Then I'll go to etc folder. Then there is a folder called master apps. Okay, so this is at the cluster master level. And if I just do a ls here, so there is a folder called _cluster, if you see it over here, correct? So this is, so basically the cluster master replicates everything, specifically the directory. It does not replicate any file. So if you keep a standalone file over here, it will not replicate, but it will replicate the directories over here. That is another important thing you need to understand. So it replicates all the directories under this master apps directory. And basically, like this _cluster, if I just go inside this one, this is also nothing but a Splunk app. So if I just go to cd _cluster over here and do a ls over here, so there is a two folder, local and default. And if I just go to default, let's discuss this stuff as well. So if I do a ls, so there is already a indexes.conf file. Let's see that what is there. So if I just open that one, if you see these indexes, right, the telemetry, the _internal _audit, so these indexes by default will be replicated by the cluster master. So that's why you are able to see it there in the UI as well, correct? So if I just, from any search head, if I just access this _internal index over here, so you should be able to see all the host different indexers over here, correct? Because this _internal index has been already been replicated by default by the cluster master over here. Now our aim is to create custom indexes over there, correct? So if I just go back over here, so we have seen, like, in the default directory, in the _cluster directory, so there is a indexes.conf file which is basically holding the internal indexes which by default get replicated to the indexers. We will not touch anything in the default folder. We will always follow this rule, because this is a Splunk defined app, right? So this _cluster will always be there whenever you will be defining a particular environment, particular instance as a cluster master, correct? So if I need to add anything, I will be adding to the local folder. So that's concept need to be cleared. Now there is another thing is that, like, if we want to create a new index, you can either just create a indexes.conf file in the local folder, or you can create an app as well, right? You can ship that particular index.conf settings as a part of the app as well. So both of the things you can do. Now in this video, we will see how to do it with the standalone files, maybe in the next video we'll talk about how to replicate apps as well. Then we will talk about this thing as well. So we will follow this convention. Like whenever you want to update, basically replicate a standalone file, let's say a standalone indexes.conf, so you will be putting into this underscore cluster app local folder. If you are shipping that indexes.conf file as a part of your app, that's fine, that you can put it in your app default folder as well, because that's the app you will be developing over there, correct? So as in this video we will be doing the standalone stuff, so let us go to our local folder over here, and let's do a ls. There should not be anything. Let's create a indexes.conf file over here, indexes.conf file over here. Now what we'll be doing is, let's say we will be creating a new index called TMDB index. We always work with our TMDB app, correct? Maybe in the next video we will talk about how to replicate this TMDB app as well. Maybe it is not at the indexer layer app. Still, I will just try to show you like how to replicate apps over there, because there are a lot of things we need to talk over there. So if I just copy the definition, now if you see, like whenever you want to create a new index, what needs to be there in the indexes.conf file, there should be a stanza with the index name. Then you can give these three paths: home path, cold path, and third path, right? Now here you need to make sure like this one is the Splunk DB, right? So this one you need to keep as is, because this will be basically the home path of the Splunk indexers, where physically it will store the files. And then the index name, for hot buckets it will be DB, for cold buckets it will be cold DB, and for threads it will be the thread DB over here. Now irrespective of your operating system, you should be using the / over here. That should be enough. If you are using Windows or Linux, this should be enough over here. Now the most important thing you need to remember over here is the replication factor. If you see it, this replication factor, whenever you are in a clustered environment and you want to replicate the indexer configuration across the cluster, this ref factor should be there and it should be set it to auto. So there are two valid values of the ref factor, one is 0, another is auto. So you should be mentioning as auto over there. Okay, so I'll just copy this one. We'll go back to our indexes.conf file. Okay, so this is our cluster master. Yes, so I'll go to insert mode and shift insert over here. So I'll just save this file over here. So this is my indexes.conf file, which I put it inside the underscore cluster local directory, correct? So this was the first step. Now the next step is whether this whatever you so our configuration bundle is ready. So the content of this master apps folder is nothing but the configuration bundle over here, and in this case we have just put a single index definition over there. Now what is the next step? We need to validate whether this is acceptable to all the cluster members or not. So to do that, what we'll be doing is we will be logging into the cluster master UI and do it from there. So let us go to the cluster master UI now. Now in the cluster master, we will go to edit and we'll go to configuration bundle actions, this screen. Okay, so now if you see over here, it shows you lot of informations over here about the peers, like whether it's status, everything, and it gives you like currently 3 buttons like validate and check restart, push and rollback, which is currently disabled. And it also give you the latest bundle information over there as well, like which was by default pushed by this particular cluster master to this indexers over there, correct? So now let us validate and check restart. Okay, so validation will basically make sure like whether this particular bundle which you are trying to push is acceptable to the indexer layer or not, basically if there is any error or not over there. Okay, and it also checks for the check whether any restart is needed or not over there as well. So if I just click on there, it will show you these things over here. and if you see, it is saying last validate and check restart was successful. And if you see, like, it also give you the checksum for the last check restart bundle as well. So this will be pushed this will be pushed once we will be hitting the push button over there, correct? So if you see, like, this is the manual process where you are manually doing this stuff and deploying it to the indexer layer. Now the same thing, whatever we did it over here using this button click, you can also do it through a CLI command as well. So let me show you. So this is the CLI command, very simple command, Splunk validate cluster bundle. And if you want to do the check restart as well, you can give this input as well over there. Or if you just want to do validation only, you can run till this point over here as well. Okay. So this is this command to check the bundle status. Even after validation, you can see this one, run this command to check the bundle status as well. Okay. Now we are going to push that particular bundle. So we will again go back to our cluster master and we'll be clicking on push over here. And once we do that, push changes, so it will basically push the changes to this one. And if you see the previous bundle which we were seeing it will show you this one. Basically this is the status where we saw the CLI command called cluster bundle status over there, correct? So this one basically give you the similar kind of information as well. And this is the active bundle ID over here, which just now we pushed it over here, correct? Now if you see, once we have pushed a new bundle, the rollback button was active over here, correct? So we will see in a separate video how this rollback works, but for now at least we will try to concentrate on the index over here. Okay, now these settings, whatever we have it in our master apps, whenever it will be delivered to the indexers, it will be delivered at the slave apps folder. So let us see in a indexer and see whether these things has been there or not. So I just logged into my indexer 1, and if I just go to the similar path cd/opt/splunk etc, and then we will go to slave apps folder, because in the indexer layer it will be the slave apps, correct? And if I just do a ls lrt over here, so there will be a similar _ cluster apps over here as well. And if I just do a ls and go to local folder over here and do a ls, if you see, there is a indexes.conf present over here. And if I just open this one, indexes.conf, so our tmdb index is present over here, correct? So that means it has been replicated to our indexer layer. And if you just go to other indexers as well, you are going to see the similar stuff over there. Now couple of points over here. First thing is, if I just go back over here, so if I just go back over here, now if you see this particular folder, slave apps, right? So the slave apps folder is actually read only. That means, so if you push any configuration over here, which Splunk needs to change it as well, just like the SSL password, correct? So if you replicate SSL password just like this way, so what Splunk do, basically it needs to encrypt that one, right? So it's basically change that user given password over there. So the same thing this indexer layer will also needs to do, right? So as this particular folder is read only, so what will happen? So the indexer layer will basically create the change in a etc apps folder, so which will not be useful at all. So that's the reason you should not be pushing any changes, which again some changes are needed over here. Okay, point number 1. And the second thing is, whatever content you have in your slave apps, right? So whenever we push a bundle, so that will be fully replaced by Splunk, whatever you have in your current bundle. So that's why we always do it through the master apps. in our cluster master table, cluster master instance. Okay, so that we will not miss anything over here. So if you manually create something to an indexer slave apps, that will be basically replaced by Splunk whenever you will be pushing the next bundle over there. You need to be careful over there. And the second thing I just wanted to show you regarding the bundle push. So whenever a single push runs, so you cannot run two push parallelly. You need to remember this one. And during push, if any error occurs for any particular indexer, the other indexer also will reject the change. So that means either it will work for all or it will work for none. So that is the way it will work. So that's why these things like this validate and check stuff works very well over there. Okay, so you can easily know what errors you have in your configuration bundle, then you can fix it, and then you can validate again until unless it is successful. Then you will be going to push this one over here. So we just created a TMDB index in our cluster environment, correct? Now we need to push some data over there. Probably we will do it through an app, and let's see in the next video how we can do it. Okay, so then we can see the data from any of the searches over there. We will see that stuff as well over there as well. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful. See you in the next video.